Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance and watched the stars through the main screen. The ship moved through space toward Kepler Prime Station, where humans would meet with other species for trade talks. Jake had done this many times before, but today felt different. Something in the air made him uneasy. That the Defiance was Earth's newest diplomatic ship. It carried the best technology humans had built and represented their hopes for peace in the new galaxy. Jake commanded a crew of 200 people who believed in making friends with alien races. For 30 years, humans had worked hard to build good relationships with 3 special alien groups. The Vorthik were beings made of living crystal. Who could think faster than any computer? They lived on bright worlds where light danced through their crystal cities. The Zalani looked like giant insects, but were gentle people who loved art and music. Their hive worlds created beautiful songs that could be heard across space. The Mersians lived in water and could breathe in both air and sea. They were great builders who made underwater cities that sparkled like jewels. These 3 races had become humanity's closest friends in a galaxy full of unfriendly neighbors. The big powers like the reptilian hegemony and the warlike Corvan Empire did not like humans very much. They thought Earth people were too young and too wild to be trusted with important things. But the Vorthik, Zalani, and Mersians saw something good in humans and chose to work with them. Captain Lisa Rodriguez came to the bridge carrying a message pad. Her face looked worried, and her hands shook a little. Lisa had been Earth's best diplomat for 15 years, and Jake had never seen her look scared before. She handed him the message and stepped back. This came from Admiral Peterson on Earth. She said in a quiet voice, "It's marked as urgent and eyes only for command staff." Jake read the message and felt his blood turn cold. The words made no sense at first, so he read them again. Then again. Each time they became more terrible. "All 3 Allied homeworlds have gone silent," the message said. "No response to any communications for 72 hours. Scout ships sent to investigate report, finding nothing but asteroid fields where Vorthik Prime, Zalani Central, and Mersian Deep once existed. Planets appear to have been completely destroyed. No debris patterns consistent with normal weapons. Something else did this. Return to Earth immediately." Jake looked up at Lisa, who was waiting for his response. Around them, the bridge crew continued their normal work, but Jake could see some of them watching from the corners of their eyes. News traveled fast on a ship. "Get me a secure channel to Admiral Peterson," Jake said. Priority 1. The communication took several minutes to connect across the vast distance to Earth. When Peterson's face appeared on the screen, he looked like he had not slept in days. His gray hair was messy, and his uniform was wrinkled. Behind him, Jake could see other officers moving quickly around what looked like a war room. "Jake, thank God you got my message," Peterson said. "How far are you from Kepler Prime?" "About 6 hours out, sir." "What happened to our allies?" "Your message said the planets were destroyed, but that's impossible. Each world had billions of people." Peterson's face became even more grim. "It gets worse, Jake. Much worse. The Galactic Council is claiming that none of those 3 species ever existed. They say we're making it all up." "That's crazy," Lisa said, stepping into view of the camera. "We have thousands of trade records, diplomatic agreements, cultural exchanges. I personally negotiated the Mersian Water Rights Treaty just last month." "I know, Lisa, but listen to this," Peterson said. He picked up a data pad and read from it. "Official statement from the Galactic Council received 2 hours ago. Quote, Earth's continued claims about fictional alien species demonstrate a concerning break from reality. No records exist of any races called Vorthik, Zalani, or Mersians. Earth's diplomatic representatives appear to be suffering from shared delusions. The Council recommends immediate psychological evaluation of all human personnel." End quote. Jake felt the deck seem to move under his feet, even though the ship was steady. Sir, they can't just claim our allies never existed. Half the galaxy knew about our friendship with those 3 races. That's what I thought too, Peterson said. So I sent messages to every species we've had contact with. The responses were all the same. No one remembers the Vorthik, Zelani, or Mersians. More than that, when I mentioned specific events or meetings that involved them, the other species acted like I was talking nonsense. Dr. Amanda Foster came onto the bridge carrying a scientific scanner and several data crystals. She was Earth's best expert on alien biology and had spent years studying the 3 allied races. Amanda had written books about Vorthik crystal technology and Zelani art forms. Commander, I need to show you something, she said. I've been running every test I can think of, and the results are impossible. She connected her scanner to the main computer and brought up several screens of data. The information was complex, but Jake could see enough to understand the basic meaning. I scanned our computer databases for any information about our 3 allied species, Amanda said. Every file is intact. Every record we ever made about them is still here. But when I tried to access external databases or galactic networks, I found nothing. It's like someone went through the entire galaxy and erased every trace of those 3 races, except from human records. How is that even possible? Lisa asked. I don't know, but it's happening, Amanda replied. I also tested something else. I asked crew members to describe their memories of meeting Vorthik or Zelani, or Mersian people. Every human on this ship remembers them clearly. But when I contacted some alien crew members on other ships through subspace, they had no memories of those races at all. Peterson's voice came from the communication screen. Amanda, we're getting the same results here on Earth. Every human remembers our allies perfectly. Every alien claims they never existed. Someone has done something to the galaxy's memory, but somehow humans are immune to it. Jake tried to think through what this meant, but his mind kept rejecting the impossible situation. 3 entire civilizations with billions of people could not just vanish from history. Yet all the evidence said that was exactly what had happened. Sir, what are your orders? Jake asked. Come home, Jake. Bring the Defiance back to Earth as fast as you can. Do not stop at Kepler Prime. Do not talk to any council representatives. We need every ship and every person back here, because I think we're about to be in the fight of our lives. The communication ended, and Jake stood in silence for a moment. Around him his crew waited for orders. These people trusted him to lead them and protect them, but he was not sure he could do either anymore. Set course for Earth, he said finally. Maximum speed. As the Defiance turned away from Kepler Prime and toward home, Jake wondered if they would make it back before whatever had destroyed their allies came for humanity too. In the depths of space, something powerful enough to erase entire species from existence was watching them, and humans were next on its list. Admiral Peterson stood in the main command center on Earth and watched dozens of ships arrive in orbit. Every human vessel in the galaxy was coming home, and the sight both relieved and terrified him. Relief because his people were safe for now. Terror because bringing everyone back meant abandoning the colonies and outposts the humans had built over decades. Captain Steve Johnson's ship, the UES Horizon, was among the first to arrive. Steve had been exploring the Outer Rim when the crisis began, and his ship carried some of the most advanced scanning equipment Earth had ever built. Peterson needed that equipment to understand what had happened to humanity's allies. Steve came to the command center within hours of docking. He carried several data storage devices, and his face showed the strain of what he had discovered. Peterson gathered his senior staff, including Dr. Foster, who had arrived on the Defiance and Intelligence. Chief Lieutenant Colonel Amy Patterson. Show us what you found, Steve. Peterson said. Steve connected his scanners to the main computer and brought up images of empty space where 3 worlds had once existed. The pictures showed scattered asteroids and cosmic dust, but nothing else. No debris from cities or ships. No signs that billions of people had ever lived in those places. I took detailed scans of all 3 former Allied homeworlds, Steve said. The destruction patterns don't match any known weapon. Nuclear weapons leave radiation signatures. Plasma bombardment creates specific energy residue. Kinetic impacts leave debris fields with predictable scatter patterns. This is none of those things. Dr. Foster leaned forward to study the data. What about gravitational weapons? Could someone have used artificial black holes or gravity bombs? I thought of that too, Steve replied. But look at this. He brought up another screen showing quantum energy readings. There are traces of exotic particles that I've never seen before. The signature suggests massive manipulation of space-time itself, but not in any way our physics can explain. Lieutenant Colonel Patterson had been quiet during the technical discussion, but now she spoke up. I need to get into Council databases. If someone has technology advanced enough to erase planets and memories, there will be traces of it somewhere. The Council keeps records of everything. Peterson nodded. Do it, Amy. Take whatever resources you need, but be careful. If they suspect we're investigating, they might move against us sooner. Amy left to begin her mission, while Steve continued showing his data. The quantum signatures were unlike anything in human science, but they were consistent across all 3 former homeworlds. Whatever had been used against the Allies was the same weapon or technology each time. There's something else, Steve said. I detected similar but much weaker signatures around several human colonies. Like someone was testing the technology or preparing to use it. The room fell silent as everyone realized what that meant. Humanity was being targeted next, and the preparations had already begun. Dr. Foster spent the next week analyzing every piece of data they had collected. She worked with teams of scientists and computer experts to understand the quantum residue that Steve had found. Slowly a picture began to emerge that was more terrifying than simple planetary destruction. It's not just that the planets were destroyed, she explained to Peterson during a late-night briefing. The quantum signatures suggest that something has been done to the fundamental nature of reality itself. Like someone reached into the past and changed history so that our allies never existed. That's impossible, Amanda. You can't change the past. I would have said the same thing a week ago, but the evidence is clear. Every trace of those 3 species has been removed from galactic records, databases, and even memories. Only humans still remember them. There's only one explanation that fits all the facts. Peterson felt a chill run down his spine. Someone has technology that can rewrite history itself. Yes, and they've used it to erase our allies from existence. Not just kill them, but make it so they were never born, never evolved, never existed at all. The only reason humans still remember is that something about our brain structure or genetics makes us resistant to the effect. Meanwhile, Amy Patterson was making progress with her infiltration of Council systems. Using techniques learned from years of intelligence work, she had managed to access several restricted databases. What she found confirmed their worst fears. Amy returned to Earth with encrypted data crystals hidden in her personal belongings. She had spent 2 weeks posing as a cultural researcher on the Council's central world. The work was dangerous because any slip would have revealed her true mission. I found references to something called the Eternity Project, she told Peterson and his staff. It's buried deep in classified files that I wasn't supposed to be able to access. The project involves quantum manipulation technology developed by the hegemony in cooperation with the Corvin Empire. She brought up files on the main screen showing technical diagrams that hurt to look at. The mathematics involved were beyond human understanding, but the basic concept was clear enough. They've built machines that can alter reality by changing quantum probability fields, Amy continued. The technology can make anything that ever existed simply not exist anymore. But it requires massive amounts of power and can only be used a few times before burning out. Why did they use it on our allies? Dr. Foster asked. Amy brought up another file showing intercepted communications between Hegemony leadership. Our three allied species were working together on something the Council considered a threat. They were developing a new faster-than-light communication system that would have broken the Council's control over interstellar information. The pieces began to fit together in Peterson's mind. The Galactic Council maintained power by controlling who could talk to whom across the vast distances of space. Most species had to use Council-approved communication networks that could be monitored and restricted. A new system that bypassed Council control would have changed everything. The Vorthic crystal technology, combined with Zelani biological computers and immersion quantum water processing, could have created something revolutionary, Dr. Foster said. A communication network that couldn't be controlled or monitored by anyone. So the Council decided to eliminate the threat by eliminating our allies, Peterson said grimly. They didn't just want to stop the project. They wanted to make sure. It never happened by making sure the species that could build it never existed. Amy nodded. And according to the files I found, humanity is next on the list. They planned to claim that our memories of the three allied species prove we're mentally unstable and dangerous to galactic security. Then they'll use the same technology to erase us from history. Peterson looked around the room at his senior staff. These people had spent their careers building peaceful relationships with alien species. Now they were preparing for a war unlike anything humanity had ever faced. How long do we have? He asked. The technology takes time to recharge between uses, Amy replied. Based on the power consumption data I found, they won't be able to target Earth for at least 6 months. But they might start with our colonies first to weaken us. Peterson made a decision that would change humanity's future. Send coded messages to all our military commanders. Activate Project Nemesis immediately. If the Council wants to erase U.S. from history, they're going to have to fight us first. Project Nemesis had been humanity's secret backup plan for decades. While other species saw humans as peaceful traders and diplomats, Earth had been quietly preparing for the day when diplomacy would fail. Mining stations were actually military bases. Cargo ships carried hidden weapons. Research facilities had been designing new types of warfare. The galaxy was about to learn what humans could do when their friends were murdered and their own existence was threatened. The Council had made the mistake of leaving humanity alive long enough to discover the truth. Now they would face the consequences of that mistake. Fleet Commander Helen Brooks received Admiral Peterson's coded message while inspecting what the galaxy believed was a civilian mining operation in the asteroid belt. The message contained only 3 words, but she knew exactly what they meant. Project Nemesis was active, and 30 years of secret preparation were about to be revealed. Helen walked through the mining facility, where hundreds of workers operated drilling equipment and ore processors. To any outside observer, this looked like a normal industrial operation, but Helen knew the truth. Hidden behind false walls and disguised as mining equipment were weapons factories, ship construction bays, and military supply depots. She activated her personal communicator and sent confirmation signals to 47 other locations throughout human space. Within hours, the greatest military buildup in human history began to unfold. Asteroid mining platforms revealed themselves as fortress bases. Cargo ships transformed into warships. Research stations became command centers for fleets that had been built in secret over decades. Captain Jake Morrison found himself reassigned from the diplomatic vessel USS Defiance to something much more dangerous. The UES Retribution was one of Earth's new Dreadnought-class warships that had been constructed. Inside what appeared to be a civilian shipyard. Jake had never seen anything like it in his years of service. The Retribution was over 2 kilometers long and built for one purpose: war. Unlike the sleek designs preferred by other galactic species, human warships looked brutal and functional. Heavy armor plating covered weapon systems that were completely different from anything else in the galaxy. Where other races used energy beams and plasma cannons, humans had built kinetic weapons that fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds. Jake's new crew came from military units that had trained in secret while pretending to be civilian workers. Chief Engineer Tony Davis had spent 15 years managing a mining platform while actually overseeing the development of new weapon systems. Weapons Officer Lieutenant Karin Hill had been a cargo ship pilot who secretly tested prototype missiles. In deep space, "Captain, you need to see this," Tony said as he showed Jake through the ship's weapons bays. "We call them railguns. They use magnetic fields to accelerate metal projectiles to a significant fraction of light speed. The projectiles hit with more force than most energy weapons, and they can't be stopped by standard energy shields." Jake examined the massive weapons that lined the ship's hull. Each railgun was the size of a city bus and required enormous amounts of power to operate. The engineering behind them was purely human in design, because no other species had developed similar technology. "Why did we go with kinetic weapons instead of energy beams like everyone else?" Jake asked. "Because everyone else uses energy shields that can stop energy weapons," Karin explained. "But shields designed to deflect plasma and laser beams don't work well against solid objects moving at high speed. It's like trying to stop a bullet with a flashlight." Meanwhile, Dr. Foster worked with a team of scientists to understand the quantum technology that had erased humanity's allies. Her research facility was hidden inside what looked like an agricultural station, growing food for the colonies. In reality, it was one of the most advanced physics laboratories ever built. Working with physicist Dr. Nathan White, Amanda made progress in understanding how the Council's reality manipulation technology functioned. The quantum fields required to alter history drew enormous amounts of power from specialized generators. More importantly, the fields could be disrupted if someone knew what to look for. The technology works by creating quantum interference patterns that change probability outcomes in the past, Nathan explained to Amanda as they studied captured data. But the interference patterns are fragile. If we can generate counter-resonance fields at the right frequency, we might be able to protect our ships and people from being erased. What would we need to build such a protection system? Amanda asked. Power, lots of power, and quantum field generators that we've never built before. The mathematics involved are at the edge of our understanding, but I think it's possible. Their work was interrupted by news that made everyone's blood run cold. Amy Patterson's intelligence networks had detected Council preparations for another use of the erasure technology. This time, the target was not a homeworld, but something smaller. General Ryan Clark coordinated the evacuation from his command post inside a mountain that had been hollowed out over decades. What tourists saw as a nature preserve was actually the most heavily fortified military base in human space. Ryan had been planning for this day since he was a young officer, and now all his preparations were being put to the test. Intelligence indicates they're targeting the colony of New Geneva first, he told Admiral Peterson during their secure conference call. 2 million people, and it's one of our most successful settlements. They want to send a message. How long do we have? Peterson asked. Days, maybe hours. The quantum signatures are building in that sector, and our monitoring stations are detecting massive energy buildups from Council ships. Peterson made the hardest decision of his military career. Evacuate as many people as we can, but prepare for the worst. If we can't save New Geneva, we'll make sure the Council pays for destroying it. The evacuation began immediately, but everyone knew it was probably too late. Civilian transports rushed to New Geneva, while military ships moved into position around the colony, not to defend it, because nothing could stop the erasure technology, but to witness what happened and gather data for the coming war. Captain Morrison received new orders that sent his ship toward the outer colonies where Council forces were gathering. The retribution would be part of humanity's first offensive action against their enemies. But first, they had to watch helplessly as another piece of humanity was wiped from existence that Dr. Foster worked desperately to complete: her quantum protection systems, but the technology was too complex to build quickly. She managed to create small experimental devices that might protect individual people, but shielding entire ships or colonies would take months of work they didn't have. The quantum field generators were installed on a few key vessels, including the Retribution. The devices were untested and might not work at all, but they represented humanity's only hope of surviving direct exposure to the erasure technology. Amanda knew that if the protection failed, the ships and crews would simply stop existing with no one left to remember them, except other humans. As news spread through human space that war was coming, millions of people prepared for the fight of their species' existence. Civilian populations were evacuated from the most vulnerable colonies, while military forces that had hidden for decades finally revealed themselves. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity had not been idle. During their years of peaceful diplomacy, every mining operation had been a weapons factory. Every research station had been developing new ways to wage war. Every cargo ship had been designed to carry hidden armaments. The species that other races saw as young and naive had been preparing for this moment since their first contact with Galactic Civilization. Fleet Commander Brooks coordinated the largest military deployment in human history. Ships that had masqueraded as civilian vessels for years shed their disguises and revealed their true nature. Weapons platforms that had been disguised as asteroid miners powered up their defensive systems. Ground forces that had trained in secret prepared to defend their worlds against enemies who could erase them from reality itself. The countdown to war had begun, and humanity was as ready as they could be. But everyone knew that readiness might not be enough against enemies who could make them never have existed at all. The next few days would determine whether humanity survived as a species or joined their three allied races in the void of non-existence. The colony of New Geneva ceased to exist at exactly 1400 hours Galactic Standard Time. 2 million humans simply vanished along with their cities, farms, and orbital stations. Where a thriving world had existed for 50 years, only empty space remained. The erasure was so complete that even the planet itself was gone, leaving behind nothing but cosmic dust and the cold light of distant stars. Admiral Peterson stood in the command center on Earth and watched the quantum sensors that had been monitoring the colony. The readings showed massive energy spikes followed by absolute nothing. Every signal from New Geneva had stopped simultaneously. Every communication channel went silent. Every tracking beacon disappeared from the navigation computer's dot. Within an hour, the Galactic Council issued their official statement. The imaginary human settlement that Earth claimed existed in the New Geneva system has been investigated and found to be a delusion. No evidence of any colony or population has ever existed in that location. This confirms our assessment that humanity is suffering from severe psychological disorders requiring immediate intervention. But humans remembered. Every person who had friends or family on New Geneva remembered them perfectly. They remembered visiting the colony, trading with its people, and receiving messages from loved ones who now officially had never existed. The pain of loss was made worse by the knowledge that the rest of the galaxy would never acknowledge what had been stolen. Admiral Peterson activated Operation Lazarus, Humanity's plan for war against an enemy that could rewrite reality? He sent coded signals to ship commanders throughout human space. The time for hiding was over. The galaxy was about to see what Earth's children could do when they were pushed too far. Captain Lisa Rodriguez commanded the stealth destroyer, UES Phantom, one of the first ships to reveal humanity's true military capabilities. Her mission was to attack the quantum relay stations that powered the Council's erasure technology. These stations had been disguised as communication relays and navigation beacons, but intelligence analysis had revealed their true purpose. The Phantom approached its target using advanced stealth technology that made it nearly invisible to Council sensors. Unlike other species who relied on energy-based concealment, human stealth systems used materials and techniques developed from centuries of warfare among themselves. The ship absorbed sensor beams instead of deflecting them and moved with careful precision to avoid detection. "Target acquired," reported her weapons officer, Lieutenant Ben Carter. "The relay station has minimal defenses. They're not expecting an attack." "Fire when ready," Lisa ordered. The Phantom's weapons were unlike anything the Council had encountered before. Instead of energy beams that could be absorbed by shields, the human ship fired solid projectiles accelerated to tremendous speeds. By magnetic fields, the kinetic penetrators punched through the station's energy barriers as if they didn't exist and tore the facility apart from the inside. The destruction of the relay station sent shock waves through the quantum network that powered the erasure technology. Across the galaxy, similar attacks began as human ships emerged from hiding to strike at targets the Council had never thought to defend. Captain Jake Morrison led the UES Retribution in an assault on a hegemony stronghold that served as a command center for quantum operations. The massive human dreadnought approached the fortress with weapons charged and ready for battle. Jake's crew had trained for this moment for years while pretending to be peaceful explorers and diplomats. "All stations report ready for combat," announced his tactical officer commander, Susan Wright. "Kinetic batteries are charged and ready to fire." The hegemony fortress was protected by energy shields that had never been penetrated by conventional weapons. Layers of plasma barriers and particle screens formed a defensive network that had protected Council installations for thousands of years. But human weapons had not been designed as conventional arms. "Commence firing," Jake ordered. The Retribution's railguns launched a barrage of metal projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. The solid rounds passed through energy shields that were designed to stop plasma beams and laser attacks. The kinetic weapons struck the fortress structure with devastating force, tearing through armor plating and destroying critical systems. The Council defenders responded with their own weapons, but found their energy-based armaments largely ineffective against human defensive systems. Earth ships used layered armor and kinetic barriers instead of pure energy shields. Plasma beams that could melt other ships. Hulls were absorbed and dispersed by human composite materials. Commander Janet Walsh led a squadron of human fighters in an attack on a Council fleet that was attempting to retreat from the expanding battle. Her pilots flew ships that looked like industrial shuttles, but carried weapon systems that made them deadly opponents for much larger vessels. "Remember your training," Janet told her pilots over the communication channel. "Hit fast, hit hard, and get out before they can respond." The human fighters used tactics that confused and overwhelmed their enemies. Instead of the formal battle formations preferred by Council forces, Earth's pilots fought like predators hunting in packs. They used their ship's superior speed and maneuverability to attack from unexpected angles and withdraw before return fire could reach them. During the battle, Janet's squadron intercepted Council communications that revealed crucial intelligence. The primary facility controlling the erasure technology was located in the galactic core region, hidden inside what appeared to be a research station. The facility was called the Eternity Engine, and it contained the quantum matrices that maintained the altered reality, where humanity's allies had never existed. Meanwhile, Dr. Foster's experimental quantum protection systems were put to their first real test. The crew of the UES Defiance found themselves targeted by a council ship equipped with a smaller version of the erasure technology. The weapon was designed to remove individual ships and their crews from existence. Quantum surge detected, announced Science Officer Dr. Patricia Young. They're trying to erase us. Activate the protection fields. Amanda ordered from her position at the science station. The experimental quantum generators created interference patterns around the human ship just as the erasure beam struck. For a terrifying moment, reality seemed to twist and bend around them. Half the crew experienced brief moments where they couldn't remember their own names or where they were. The ship's computer systems glitched and showed impossible readings. But when the effect passed, the Defiance and its crew were still there. They had become the first beings in galactic history to survive direct exposure to quantum erasure technology. However, the victory came at a cost. Half the crew suffered severe neural damage from the quantum backlash, and several died from the exposure. "We did it," Amanda said weakly as medical teams rushed to help the injured. "The protection works, but it's not perfect. The fields need to be stronger and more stable." The news of humanity's survival spread quickly through both human and council communication networks. For the first time since the erasure technology had been developed, someone had found a way to resist it. The psychological impact on council forces was immediate and devastating. Their ultimate weapon was no longer absolute dot as human fleets pushed deeper into council territory. The liberation of quantum relay stations continued across multiple sectors. Each destroyed relay weakened the network that maintained the altered timeline where the three allied species had never existed. The quantum field that enforced the false reality began to develop cracks and instabilities. General Clark coordinated the overall offensive from his command center while monitoring reports from dozens of battle zones. Human forces were winning individual engagements, but the Council still had massive numerical superiority. More importantly, they still controlled the Eternity Engine that could potentially erase Earth itself if humanity pushed too far. "We're doing better than expected," he reported to Admiral Peterson. "Our weapons and tactics are giving us significant advantages in ship-to-ship combat. But intelligence indicates they're preparing to use the main erasure system against Earth. If we don't stop our advance..." Peterson faced the hardest decision of the war. Continue the offensive and risk having Earth erased from existence, or halt the advance and allow the Council time to develop countermeasures against human weapons. Either choice could lead to humanity's extinction. "We can't stop now," he decided. "If we give them time to adapt, we'll lose our advantages and they'll erase us anyway. Push forward to the galactic core. We have to destroy the Eternity Engine before they can use it against Earth." The final phase of humanity's war for survival was about to begin. Everything depended on reaching the galactic core and destroying the facility that could erase them from history. But the Council would throw everything they had at the human fleets to stop them from reaching their ultimate target. The final battle for the Eternity Engine began with the largest space engagement in galactic history. Admiral Peterson coordinated over 300 human warships as they approached the galactic core where the quantum erasure facility waited. Behind layers of Council defenses, every ship humanity could muster had been committed to this single desperate assault. The Council threw everything they had at the approaching human fleet. Thousands of hegemony cruisers and Corvin battleships formed defensive lines around the facility, while smaller vessels swarmed like angry insects around the human formations. Energy weapons filled space with deadly light as both sides fought for the future of reality itself. Captain Morrison led the direct assault on the facility's outer defenses while his ship, the Retribution absorbed massive amounts of enemy fire. The human dreadnought's armor held against weapons that would have destroyed any other vessel, but the strain was showing. Hull breaches appeared along the ship's sides, and several weapon systems went offline. Forward shields at 30%, reported Commander Wright. We're taking heavy damage, but still operational. Keep pushing forward, Jake ordered. We have to create an opening for the boarding teams. The battle plan required getting close enough to the Eternity engine for assault troops to board the facility. Dr. Foster's quantum protection systems had been installed unmodified. Transport ships that would carry teams of soldiers and scientists to the facility's core. But first, the warships had to break through defenses that had been building. For decades, Dr. Foster worked frantically aboard the heavily modified UES Phoenix as the ship approached the quantum facility. Her team had spent weeks preparing for this moment, studying every piece of data they had gathered about the erasure technology. The plan was to reverse the quantum process that had erased the 3 allied species, but the mathematics involved were at the edge of human understanding. The quantum matrices are incredibly complex, she explained to her team, as weapons fire shook the ship around them. We'll have maybe minutes to analyze the system and figure out how to reverse the erasure process. If we make a mistake, we could make things worse instead of better. Dr. Nathan White checked his equipment one final time. The reversal process will require massive amounts of power fed directly into the quantum core. We'll need to tap into the facility's own power systems to have enough energy. Meanwhile, Captain Rodriguez faced a terrible choice aboard the UES Phantom. Her stealth destroyer had managed to penetrate the facility's inner defenses, but Council ships were closing in from all sides. She could retreat and save her crew, or sacrifice her ship to create the opening Morrison's assault teams needed. All hands, prepare for ramming speed, she announced over the ship's communication system. We're going to punch a hole in their defenses that our people can use. The Phantom accelerated directly toward the facility's main shield generator, while enemy fire concentrated on the small ship. Rodriguez's crew knew they probably wouldn't survive the attack, but they also knew that failure meant the extinction of humanity. The destroyer struck the shield generator at maximum speed, and both ships exploded in a burst of light that temporarily disabled the facility's outer defenses. The sacrifice created the opening Morrison needed. Assault shuttles launched from human ships and raced toward the facility through the gap in its defenses. Marine teams led by Lieutenant Colonel Amy Patterson fought their way through the station's corridors, while scientists followed behind carrying the equipment needed to reverse the erasure process. Chief Engineer Tony Davis led the technical assault, teamed deeper into the facility, while Patterson's Marines held off desperate Council defenders. The quantum core was located at the center of the massive station, protected by multiple layers of security systems and armed guards who knew that losing the facility meant losing their ultimate weapon. We're at the quantum core, Tony reported over his communication device. But the security systems are unlike anything we've seen before. These aren't just locks and barriers. They're reality manipulation fields that could erase us if we make a wrong move. Dr. Foster's voice came through the communication channel from her position aboard the Phoenix. I'm analyzing the quantum signatures from your location. The security systems are integrated with the main erasure matrix. If you can bypass them, you should be able to access the core controls. The battle for the facility's core became a race against time. Council reinforcements were arriving from across the galaxy, while human ships fought desperately to maintain their positions around the station. Every minute of delay increased the chances that the Council would activate the main erasure system and delete Earth from existence. In the quantum core, Amy Patterson's Marines fought against Council guards who would rather die than lose control of their ultimate weapon. The fighting was brutal and close quarters, as both sides knew that everything depended on who controlled the facility's heart. Energy weapons and kinetic rifles fired in confined spaces, while the quantum machinery hummed with power around them. Tony Davis reached the main control systems and began working to understand technology that was far beyond current human science. The quantum matrices were works of art as much as engineering, combining mathematics and physics in ways that hurt to contemplate. But he could see enough to understand the basic principles. "I can access the control systems," he reported. "But Dr. Foster needs to tell me what to do. One wrong command, and we could erase ourselves instead of restoring our allies." From her ship, Amanda worked with the quantum data Tony was transmitting while battle raged around both their locations. The mathematics involved were staggering in their complexity, but she could see patterns in the equations that suggested how the erasure process might be reversed. The quantum fields that maintain the altered reality are incredibly powerful. "They're also fragile," she explained to her team. "If we can introduce the right kind of interference pattern, the whole system should collapse and restore the original timeline." But there was a terrible choice to be made. Amanda could see two possible approaches to reversing the erasure. The safe method would destroy the technology and free humanity from the threat, but leave their three allied species lost forever in non-existence. The dangerous method might restore the allies, but could potentially erase Earth instead if the calculations were wrong. General Clark's voice came through the communication channel from his command post on Earth. "Dr. Foster, what are your recommendations?" Amanda looked at her data one more time before answering. "Sir, I can guarantee that the safe approach will work. We can destroy the erasure technology and humanity will survive. But our allies will remain erased forever. And the dangerous approach? There's about a 60% chance it will work and restore all three allied species. But if I'm wrong about the quantum calculations, Earth could be erased instead of restored." The communication channel was silent for several seconds while Clark considered the choice. Around them, the battle continued as human ships fought desperately to hold their positions. Council reinforcements were arriving, and the window of opportunity was closing rapidly. Finally, Clark's voice returned with an order that would define humanity's character. "Dr. Foster, we don't abandon our friends, living or dead. Take the risk." Amanda began implementing the dangerous reversal process, while Tony followed her instructions at the quantum controls. The mathematics required were so complex that even small errors could have catastrophic results. But the alternative was abandoning the billions of people who had been erased simply for being humanity's friends. The reversal process began with reality itself seeming to bend and twist around the quantum core. Space and time became fluid as fundamental forces were manipulated on a scale that should have been impossible. The facility shook as energies beyond comprehension flowed through its systems. For a terrifying moment, it seemed like the process would fail. Quantum fields fluctuated wildly, and reality itself appeared to be coming apart. Several of Tony's team members simply disappeared as temporal paradoxes caught them in impossible situations. The facility's hull began to crack as forces that could reshape existence strained its structure. Then suddenly, everything stabilized. The quantum fields realigned themselves into new configurations, and the impossible energies flowing through. The facility's systems began to calm. Reality reasserted itself in a configuration that was different from what had existed moments before. "It worked," Tony reported with wonder in his voice. "The quantum matrices have restructured themselves. The erasure process is reversing." Across the galaxy, 3 dead star systems suddenly blazed with life again. Vorthic Prime materialized in space, with its crystal cities gleaming in the light of their sun. Xylani Central appeared with its hive world singing songs that could be heard across space. Mersion Deep reformed with its underwater cities sparkling like jewels beneath alien seas. More than that, the three species returned to existence with full knowledge of what had happened to them. They remembered their erasure and humanity's sacrifice to restore them. The quantum reversal had not just brought them back, but had given them understanding of the price. Their friends had paid for their restoration. Within hours, the first messages began arriving from the restored allied worlds.